Hello AS, welcome to your first intervention session for psychology. I'm just going to run through what it is that you need to do to make sure that you've done everything that I wanted you to do for the intervention session, and then it's a case of marking your assessment and completing the feedback form. Okay, it's absolutely vital that you complete the feedback form as well as mark the assessment. So first things first, hopefully Andy's taking you through this, but if not, right on the very front of your assessment is some things you've got to fill in. So hopefully, fingers crossed, you all know your names. So if you can put that. Alpes Targets, you won't know yet. That is something, a conversation you will have possibly in your first one-to-one with your tutors, or possibly in tutorial at some point, and it will need to be filled in, but not now. It's basically where we put into a really big fancy computer, we put all of your GCSE results, and then it pings out and predicted target grade for A levels based on your GCSE results, which of course is one method that we use for kind of measuring you. However, almost equally as important, if not ever so slightly more, is your personal aspirational target grades. Your personal grade is what the minimum grade that you could get that you would be happy with. So that's not really minimum, but it's kind of like that sort of, I think that's fairly achievable, and that's what I want or what I need. Aspirational target grade is usually one above that, so it's your dream grade. If you work really, really hard, could be possibly be more than one. If you work really, really hard, what do you think you'd absolutely love to get? But both of those, it's really important that whilst you are, particularly with the personal target grade, be realistic. So kind of keep it at a realistic level. Think about your GCSEs. What did you consistently get most of the time? Bear in mind an A levels is a little bit harder, and then kind of go with that. The aspirational one is where you can be a little bit more less realistic, or sort of more exactly as it's called, aspirational. So you think, yeah, that's really what I want to go for. So fill those in the front. Hopefully things you've already done, otherwise the first half an hour of your session has not been used well. Check the Postit Notes. It says on the wall. They might not be on the wall. They could be on the desk in front of you. Have I given you any feedback? If so, you need to add to this feedback. So generally it was asking, most of you, almost all of you, I think, said university, but if you didn't, that's absolutely fine. I've picked that up as well. Which university, which course, and which grades I'd like you to use your phones to do some research. You can either write a new Post-it note, which I would prefer because it looked lovely and neat and it's supposed to be a nice display, but you can also, if it's just a small thing like adding the grades along the bottom, you can add the grades along the bottom, not forgetting to identify which you would like to get in psychology. So hopefully this is really important. Well, this is really important, and hopefully it's informed your personal target grade and your aspirational target grade as well, because of course I don't want to say personal grades a C when in fact you need an A to get onto the course you think you want to get onto. You need to think carefully if that's the thing, something that's happened. Do you need to find a different college, university course, or do you need to think about working a lot harder? Okay. For the first hour, hopefully half an hour, so hopefully you have completed some practice exam questions. They were on the front. Hopefully you've not written on them because they are class sets that I'll use again. And also you can use the mark scheme. You don't need to have completed all the questions and then go on to the mark scheme because there's hundreds of them. You could do a couple of questions, check your answers on the mark scheme. That was just for practice. Now what you've just finished doing, hopefully, which you were started half an hour into your session, which is 15 minutes. You are given 15 minutes to complete the exam questions, and that's how long you would get for that number of marks in a real exam in psychology. Hopefully you've done all that. You've gone to get a red pen from the front, or you might know have your own pen on there, and you are using the following video, i.e. the one I'm talking on, to mark it. After that you must complete the assessment sheet. So if you look at the front where it says aspirational target grade blah blah blah, turn it over. This here with the funny boxes on the front is what you need to complete for your assessment grade, even the bits that say tutor only, because today you are the tutor. I'm giving you some additional, generally you only see these once every 3 weeks, I'm giving you additional opportunity to give yourselves as useful feedback as even possibly I could give you. So you want to look through and think, the list of things you can tick off. So yes, I operationalised IVs, yes I operationalised DVs, yes I could do this, I couldn't write null hypothesis correctly, I didn't get a mark for that one, whatever it might be. And then at the bottom you want to write yourself a target grade. So next week when I give you some more hypotheses questions, what will you do differently to ensure that you get the full marks? Okay, so everything on that second sheet should be completed. So here's your mark scheme. Question 1, the perfect answer is there's a correlation or relationship. You could use either. Correlation's better, but either's fine, and that's something that's important for homework as well. Remember, correlation correlational hypothesis. This is an example of one of those. There is a correlational relationship between pupils' GCSE maths score and their score on a from 1 to 10 on a musical rating scale. Any rough wording like that, remember, it must be measurable. So 1 mark for making it non-directional and correlational. So you get 1 mark for doing both those things. If you just said there'd be a correlation, not whether it be positive, not whether it be negative, you get 1 mark. If you didn't do that, you don't get any marks. If you get that first mark, you can access the second mark. Make it clear that it's a score. Make sure it's operationalised. So there's a score on a GCSE maths test, because that's a number, and a score from 0 to 10 on a musical rating scale. I will probably just about allow you not to say from 1 to 10, but that's ideally you want that level of detail. So if you got 3 marks, give yourself 3. If you only got 1, and so on and so on. Identify, make a quick note, what did you not do that you needed to do to get those marks? Just briefly, so pause this video, quickly make a note of that, move on to the next one. Question 2, the answer is whether the participants have OCD or not. Now, because it's the IV, to operationalise, you must have included both variables. So to get the marks, you must have said whether they have OCD or they do not have OCD, or anything along those lines. If you've only said OCD, no marks. You must operationalise both conditions. Note that down. If you didn't do it, that might be the thing, the target that you need to put on at the end of the session. You must remember to operationalise both conditions. Okay. The estimate of how many marks you could score from a maths test. Again, remember to operationalise it to make it measurable. So the estimate of how many marks, numbers, that's how you do it, how many marks could be scored on a maths test. So it's an estimate of how many marks. There you go. And then B, there's a difference in estimates men will give their scores on a maths test and the estimates women will give their scores on a maths test. That's exactly what you want. You can also accept a null version as well. Or you could have said, so the top one was this difference one was of course non-directional. You could also accept the null, which is there will be no difference. Or you could have had a directional one. Men will give higher, or you could have said lower, estimates on their scores on a maths test than the estimates women will give their scores on a maths test. Okay, oh, apologies. So flick back there quickly. So 1 mark for writing the correct. You could do, as long as it was directional, non-directional, or null, any of those 3, you could get the marks as long as it wasn't correlational. And then what you must do, so 1 mark for that, and then 1 mark for mentioning men and women separately. So search through your hypothesis. Did you mention men? Did you mention women? Because that's the IV, so that must be operationalised. And then the DV, to make it measurable, you must say the estimates. They give themselves on their estimates of their scores on a maths test. So if you did all 3 of those things, you get 3 marks. If not, you only get however many marks you got. Make a note of what you didn't get the full marks for. Question 4, no marks for a directional hypothesis. It asks for it to be non-directional. So if you've said more or less, higher, lower, used any of those direction words, you do not get any marks. You get 1 mark if it's not operationalised. So for example, if you just say age affects memory, 1 mark. There'll be a difference between the 2 conditions. Anything like that, as long as it's non-directional, you could get a mark. However, for that second mark, you must mention both conditions and the DV, so you must mention everything. There will be a difference, non-directional, in how many numbers are correctly recalled. That's the DV operationalised by children and adults. That's the IV operationalised. So for the full 2 marks, you must say there will be a difference. You must say the operationalise the DV, how many numbers are correctly recorded, operationalise the IV by children and adults, or anything along. As long as we've done those things, if it's not worded exactly like that, that's fine. And then, of course, the aim, you get the marks if you say to investigate the effects of colour on performance. So you must start it to investigate, and you must have summarised it. Don't make it look like a hypothesis. It's an aim. Short, sweet, simple. Okay. And then question 6, and this is the one I emphasised. I told almost every group this is what you will get a question on. And here it is, unsurprisingly. So hopefully you've all remembered, and then you won't be like the AS who lost marks last year. Question 6A, it should not be directional, or you could say it should be, it should be non-directional. It doesn't matter which way round you say it. Should I say it should not be directional, or it should be non-directional, as there is no referenced evidence that allows researchers to predict the direction of the results. So there's no previous research telling us anything. It's all brand new. We don't know anything about it, so it should be non-directional. I told you this in class. Please remember that. And then 1 mark for saying it's a relationship or a correlation, because that's what type of hypothesis it is. If you've written there will be a difference between or something, a directional one, then you don't get any marks for that. So it must talk about relationships, so you must look out for the correlational parts. And then operationalising covariable 1, map reading scores, because scores are a number. Operationalise covariable 2, driver error ratings of motorists, so make it really clear how that was measured. So there's a relationship between the map reading scores and the driver error ratings of motorists. Give yourself a mark for each one of those. And of course, well done, you've completed that. So it's a really nice, short, simple assessment. Now you must complete the assessment front cover sheet. So turn right to the front, not that front sheet, turn it over, it's that inside one. Fill in every single thing on that, please. If you've got any questions, please let me know. Please let Andy know, or please let me know. Thank you.